Now be in session. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Evancho.
Here.
Hill.
Here.
Loffman.
Here.
McMillan.
Here.
Mauer.
Here.
Wolverton.
Here.
Zaleski.
Reading the minutes, Mr. Loffman.
Motion to excuse Councilman Zaleski.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Ms. McMillan,
I'll second that motion.
all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I guess Mike's so quiet, I forgot he wasn't here. Reading of the minutes. Mr. Wolverton
I make a motion, we dispense the reading of minutes, place on file.
and Mr. Loffman,
Second the motion.
all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign, and that motion's granted. At this time, I'd like to see Chief Deeks to approach the microphone and for a special presentation.
Good evening, council. Hope everyone's doing good. I know you know who I am. I'm just gonna say Jeff Deeks, Fire Chief, 902 Gaston Avenue, because that's pretty much my home. So that's where I'm at. But I just wanted to get with you guys, not only with council, but the administration too, because I think it's important that we recognize what our employees do. And there's two such instances that has recently happened. One you're kind of familiar with, but the other one just happened a couple weeks ago down at a local restaurant here. So what these guys do day in, day out is just truly amazing. I mean, we go from the really non-emergency calls to something that's full-blown, it's life and death situation. And I can't just stress enough how important that is for the cities. And as someone just told me earlier, this has been a culmination of 8 years of doing our medical first response, and the reasons why we're doing it, because they haven't gotten better. But yet day in and day out, these guys go out, do what they have to do to represent the fire department, the city, very well. And I can't say enough about them and what every one of them that does the job. But there's two in particular I want to talk about. It's kind of on the opposite ends. One is bringing a new life into the world, and the second is bringing a life back that has passed, but they was able to get him back. So the first one, I'm going to do a little bit on the first one, then Assistant Chief Elliott, I think, is going to come up and talk about, since that was his shift that was working that day on the next call. But on February 27th, we were at the council retreat there at Crossroads, and I got the call from Assistant Chief Justin Warner, saying, hey, the guys are, went on a pregnancy call, and they're delivering a baby. And I went, what? I said, what? And that's when I got up or probably left the thing. But lo and behold, we had, the ironic thing is, we already was on one call already, another medical call in the city. This second call came in a few minutes later for a lady that's been pregnant, or is pregnant, and she was having labor pains and all that stuff. So since we was on the first call, we had our Ford Explorer out in that call taking care of the patient. Well, on the second call with the pregnancy, they took the engine out, which we have advanced capabilities on that to do what we need to do. They get to the scene, lo and behold, there she is. She really wasn't no crowning or nothing like that of the labor. So, hey, United was there. The guys got her on the cot, got her to the back of the squad. Captain Hilton asked their paramedic, hey, you think you're okay? Because they had a couple other people there. And I would be remorse if I didn't say a shout out to Todd Root, Brighton United Ambulance, and his two people that he had on with him. They did a wonderful job. But Todd responded, no, I think I'll be okay, Steve. Steve just hopped back in the truck, didn't even get out, or didn't even put it in reverse or anything like that. The back door of the ambulance swung open. Todd was yelling for Steve. And Steve goes over there, and lo and behold, now, the female, she was presenting, she was showing, the head was coming out, and it was baby time. She wanted to push and everything, but all the guys that were on that scene were marvelous. I mean, that's just something that, if I would have been there, I probably would have got woozy, and then probably, but You know, and they actually brought, you know, we delivered a baby. And I think, don't quote me on this, but I think that's the first time in CFD history that any of our staff have actually delivered a baby. So I just want to give a shout out to that crew, and it was Captain Steve Helton
Bring him up.
right there.
Bring him up.
Come on, Steve.
Bring him up.
Come
on.
Hatfield, Engineer Josh Hatfield.
You gotta come up here, Steve, to be on TV.
Who was all there, Steve? I can't. Joe Henson, there he is back there.
Bring him up.
Hunter's our newest employee, one of our newest employees.
Chief, bring him up.
Paul Gable, and I just, you know.
Bring him up. They need,
Yeah,
so
you
that they
guys-
can be on
come
TV.
up here, they want-
You're a star now. You guys are stars now. Right here, come up here.
And this,
Yes.
Yeah,
Right
face-
behind.
and
face
this
the
is
camera.
Justin Warner's crew, his shift. So my hat's off, Justin. I want you to come up too.
Steve.
Get up here.
I'm surprised you did pass on.
So, I mean, just something with that call like that, I mean, I know. He did ask. In his defense, he did ask. He did. But yeah. But there was no questions on that first call the first crew was out on. They had no questions. When this pregnancy came in, they got on the radio, they went directly there in case they needed some more help. So, I think, you know, I need to do a better job, and I will do a better job in recognizing your guys' efforts. Just not that council or the mayor needs to know every call we go on, because he would go crazy if he knew that. But just some of those calls, just to give him a heads up, maybe that information can be passed on to council, so you know what these guys do. I mean, we're getting ready to grow, hopefully here very shortly with 6 additional people, and then getting that ambulance started. Steve calls it the Red Chariot of Hope, or whatever he calls it.
Of course you did.
So hopefully here soon you'll be seeing us in that. We're very close to doing that, and again, and Steve said it, it's just been 8 years. These guys have been busting their butts for, I can say butts, right? Okay, all right. If it was in the firehouse, it'd been a different word. But I just want to personally thank them for what they do day in, day out, and I truly appreciate it. So thank you guys very much.
Great
So,
job, guys.
yeah.
You'll be in good hands, Katie, if you need it.
So, again, the next call that came in, I want to tell you about. It just recently happened, and I'll let Assistant Chief Elliott, talk about it. And it was a pretty amazing thing that happened. I wasn't there, but when those guys came back, I mean, and what they said, you know, I ain't gonna get emotional about it, but these guys are pretty awesome. So, yeah. All right, good.
I had to write mine up, but hello again, everybody. Good to see you all. On Tuesday, April 9th, around lunchtime, we had just completed CPR recertification, and we're spending some time becoming familiar with one of our new Auto Pulse CPR machines that we just have allocated money for. Dispatch notified us of a male having seizures at the Forum at Southgate Parkway. Engineer Bob Faco and firefighter paramedic Paul Hill responded in Car 6, our first response vehicle. Minutes into that response, dispatch notified us that CPR was in progress. As policy dictates, we immediately sent Engine 3 with a crew to assist with the medical emergency. Engineer Faco and firefighter Hill were the first to arrive on scene and found the victim in cardiac arrest with a bystander performing CPR. Firefighter medic Hill checked the victim for a pulse, found none, and Engineer Faco continued CPR while firefighter medic Hill applied defibrillator pads to the victim's chest. The victim was found to be in ventricular fibrillation, a shockable rhythm. Engine 3 arrived with Captain Matt Stifler, firefighter paramedic Jordan Lowry, and firefighter paramedic Paul Gable. The cycle of CPR and defibrillation continued for several minutes, resulting in the patient being defibrillated or shocked a total of 4 times. The fourth and final defibrillation converted the victim's heart rate to an organized heart rhythm with a pulse. This is what we call ROSC, or return of spontaneous circulation. The victim was prepared for transport and loaded to Castle Station's ambulance, where firefighter medic Jordan Lowry and firefighter medic Paul Hill accompanied the patient until completion of transport at Southeastern Med. When the patient arrived at Southeastern Med, he was conscious and attempting to talk. A later visit to the emergency department to obtain patient information found the victim sitting up and speaking with his wife on the phone. The victim in this instance was very fortunate in more than one way. The first, that the cardiac arrest was witnessed in a witnessed event, and a bystander selflessly knew and administered good CPR. The second, a group of what we believe the finest providers of EMS in this city were on duty that day and performed at the highest level, resulting in the patient's survival. Many of us that have been EMS providers for some time, have experienced ROSC in a patient, but the number of patients that are talking to you after a cardiac arrest are not a common occurrence. It was not just this single occasion that these men perform at this level. This is an everyday occurrence. These are the people that have established a standard of care in our community. The Cambridge Fire Department is very proud of these guys and what they do. So, Captain Stifler wasn't able to make it tonight. These guys do a great job. I'm so proud of them. They all got on the truck because they're all faster than me. So I'm moving a little bit slower pace now. But like Jeff said, this is what we're doing every day, guys. And we're making a difference in the community. And we are ready to get that boohoo buggy out and run up and down the streets and start taking people to the hospital. So we need your support. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Good luck, guys.
Even though I thanked two of these already, the other two, me and Bobby got hired the same year. Back, he was in June, I was in August. He still holds that over my head. But so I known Bobby for a long time. He would, do anything to work for anybody. All you gotta do is ask. And we got lucky enough to steal Paul from United Ambulance when we was going through the testing process and the whole 9 yards. And he's proved, his medic, he does the right thing. I thought about that call that night. I'm at home at 8:30 at night, 8:45, and I actually, that was around there, I think I texted Paul, and I just said, even though I told him at the station, hey, great job, I just thought about it more, because he had a lot, both those two had a lot on their hands at first, more than you know, and they, as usual, performed. They knocked it out of the park, and thankfully for them, this guy can come back to Cambridge and eat again or whatever, so, but again, I just want to tell them thank you. Again, we're almost there. We're there. You're going to be hopefully seeing that going here fairly soon. As soon as we get some more things situated and coordinated and what have you. But again, I'll be smiling when it happens, but yet I'll be thrown up too, probably. But yeah, that's it. So, but yeah, thank you for having us. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Good job, guys.
All right, well, thanks for coming up, guys. That the recognition is deserved and it's appreciated by all of us. So, thank you. We're going to go on now to the mayor's report.
Yeah, you took your time to make it short.
Yeah.
Thanks, gentlemen, everybody, and ladies. Well, it's got a lot of activity, and that's just the way it is with the sunshine out. It's been busy, busy, busy. Had all those events, and then we rode right into another report you'll get here in a little bit about the flood that made the top 10 list in our city. But let's get into what's in front of you right here. Number one, request from code enforcement to appropriate $20,000 to services by contract and $6,135.61 to 61 cents to demolition. That's the first half money coming in from the county. And we just stumbled on that there last week, so we're catching up. 2, request from Utilities Director to enter into mutual aid agreement with Ohio Warn, W-A-R-N. 3, request from Economic Community Development to apply for a Nature Works grant. And that would be something that enable us to try to put a bathroom, handicap access at the big pavilion at the park. And that's way, way past needed, but it's gonna be a journey, so hang on. We got some plans, but we're gonna have to start knocking at the door, so. we'll
Okay,
try.
those 3 items will be referred to Finance Committee.
Thank you, Council President. Okay, now, no particular order. We got a lot going on here, but I want to get a lot of this out here. Of course, with the weather, the park's starting to hop. We've got the baseball, the softball, the tennis, the pickleball, the pavilions, and people when the ducks are on the move, and everybody's having a field day. So be careful with the kids. School's almost out, believe it or not, which is hard to believe. Tasty treats in full go. And it's going pretty well so far, and I'm happy about that. So if you have any questions about anything going on out there, Tim Gibson's your superintendent, and you can go from there. You might have heard on the radio, we talked about last council meeting about 50-50 program on sidewalks. I thank the radio station for digging into that, but that's available at the mayor's office if you want an application for that. Southgate Bridge, I've got a lot of great information. One of our firemen has had a drone in the air along with a couple other individuals. A lot of people's getting information. A lot of people watched over the weekend. It is ahead of schedule. I'm not trying to talk about dates and times because that can change. Just like that flood, when it got in there, they had to move that lower deck and it still took off on them. So you have to catch back up and put all that stuff back together. But it's been pretty impressive what's going on out there. There's been plenty of people watching. And thank goodness we do have those drones. Compost is open this week, Wednesday and Saturday, and it'll stay that way on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Any questions about that, refer that to the street department, although you could call my secretary and then she could fill you in, but she'll probably tell you the same thing.
Do you have the times?
We've got the times, I believe it's 11 to 7 on Wednesdays, 12 to 7 on Wednesdays, thanks there, Bill. And then Saturday, I'm calling it 8 to noon. But it could be 7, but again, to be on the safe side, 8 to noon, Saturdays. Local people only. Sticks and stones, and that's allowed down there, but again, we're going to tippy-toe in this and see what we get into. Spring cleanup is this weekend, 26th and 27th. You can see the piles starting to develop out there. Some of them have called Property Code's office, Kim Conrath, and we've got some people willing to help pick it up. If you have situations there, I've got some more report on that, but you can call her office and she'll make arrangements for senior citizens or handicapped. Again, I'm looking out there, take advantage of this thing. We are really making headroads out there. When you look at the big picture out there, it's cleaner from one end to the other on all 4 sides. But unfortunately, and they try to hide them sometimes, because I get it, you know, but you gotta get them mattresses out of here. And, you know, people get the phobia about bed bugs, and I get that. They don't want to pick somebody else's stuff up, so let's get that stuff moving. And there's your chance, it's on the city. Tires, you get up to 4 on us, and then you have to pay $1 or $2 a piece, depending on the size, and if the rim's there and all that, she'll get you at the door and go from there. But use that opportunity. And I just want to throw a couple things out that just ought to make us feel good, and happens to be in Kim McMillan's ward. Jefferson Avenue, the house at 9th and Jefferson, I believe maybe it's 8th and Jefferson. 8th and Jefferson. Personally, have written letters and fooled with that house for 12 to 15 years. And finally see, now there's a lot of reasons why things happen, but I got out of the car the other day and met the lady, and they're going, without question, it's going to be stem to stern, and it's nice on where it's going. So that's, and then up the street, Mo Lathan and Second Chance Construction took advantage of an auction that was out there to Pritchard Laughlin through the county and rolled in there. And quite honestly, it's just one of the nicest houses on the street. We went out, had our picture taken, and he went through Kim's office and Brandon's office and some help, different places and ways to work through that, and turned that around. And you can see some other things percolating off the sides of that, just seeing that going on. There's a lot of private money being spent out there, not just there. And I think Tom knows what I'm talking about there, and we appreciate that. I just want to take a moment. That makes a difference. And those houses pay better taxes, sell for more money, and affect a lot of what's trying to take place right around us. Edgeworth project, that's gonna happen in the next 2 weeks. Nick's in the building, he's gonna talk about something else, but we had our open house out there, not an open house, but a chance for people to come. I don't know what to say, other than the fact it went pretty good in my eyes that night. There was a couple things that could have been done a little differently. I had people come up to me literally the next day and say how wonderful it was, and then I took 2 more steps the other direction, someone said it was terrible. So I don't know, you know, you just embrace everything, do the best you can. I guess we're on the 50-yard line, that's not a bad place to be, so we've done pretty good on these things, we'll go with it. But good turnout. It was supposed to start from 5 on. I got there a full 15 to 17 minutes early, and there was already 8 people in there. So it would have been difficult. Now, at 25 after the hour of 5, there wasn't anybody there. So, but again, thanks for those that attended. And we don't traditionally do that all the time, and I think it was well received that way. So we stepped out and tried it. Maybe we'll pick it up and change some things the next time. But thanks for those that was there. We took a ride around the city there this last Wednesday, me and Kim Conrath, and the law director was at the last second had to pull back, but he swears his allegiance to us on this. We did send the top 6 ugly abandoned houses to the courts. Judge, you may be seeing it, which she said already. She's wondering where things are at. I've heard a few seconds ago. There it comes, at least somewhere out there. We'll have to pinch Bill in the middle. How's that? Wherever you are, Bill, I got you, buddy. Arbor Day is this week, and we're going to have our celebration at 10 o'clock in the park. And
What day?
that's Friday. And we've got 12 memorial trees that's been already started to be planted. Marty's already started working on them. And you know, you can see it in the last few years what the difference is this. And these are personal connected trees to families. And our tree commission, along with some other caring individuals for many years, have it's morphing into a really neat area. Now, we do have a few challenges in the short term we're dealing with right now. I'll just leave it at that, and I got my fingers crossed we can find a way. But the bottom line, we got the beauty of 12 families that stepped up for their loved ones to put stuff in the park. I'm trying not to look at Sharon right now, but she's got one in there. Anyhow, it's just, I do this every year, and I had to miss last year, so I'm really excited to come for this one this year. It's just really, really off the charts, sweet and awesome, and the park staff, what they do out there, and the cemetery for that matter. I just want to take a moment before I roll into the last, well, I got 2 things here. I got spring cleanup again. I read the dates. Mow season, Kim wanted me to get in it. Mowing's on right now, 8-inch over, we're coming. And there's some debatable situations out there, I can name them. And, you know, pharmacy up on top of the hill, corporate letter, Steubenville Avenue. If it's between the sidewalk and the curb, I don't understand where we turned the curve here about 10 years ago, but that's the yard too, mow your grass. There's not a genie that comes out there and does it. And if we do it, you're gonna get it on your taxes. I'm trying not to do this stuff, but that's how Kim got $26,000, so I don't know. I guess we'll just keep trading back and forth till someone figures it out. So with that, I want to make sure. Senior citizens can call community service and pick up items 439-2822, and that's, like I said, she wants them calls before Wednesday this week. So try to, if you're within the sound of this report, get a hold of her. And I just want to take a minute to thank all the employees of every department, because this weather changed quick, and that flood hit, and that's just in the last 2 weeks since we all been getting together. And it was kind of crazy there for a while. And they stood up and got the job done, barrels here, barrels there, move this, move that. And as you're hearing, No flood, no rain is the same. Water goes up, down in different spots, different times, different reasons. There's no expert out there, no matter how anybody tries to promote themselves on Facebook or whatever else they get on out there. But anyhow, with that said, with the facts, and all questions are good questions, is the engineer, Nick Cunningham. I asked him to provide an overview, which I don't often get.
Good evening. As the mayor already mentioned, he asked me to put together a presentation and just present the flood that happened on the week of March 31st. Was that flipping? So the agenda just going to go.
Turn off that light, we could see it.
Sharon's gonna get it. I'll get it now.
So I'm going to discuss the levees, the storm event, repercussions of the storm event, action following flood, and what we're going to do moving forward. So first, just for, maybe everyone knows, but just to make you aware if you do not, we have two levees in the city of Cambridge. One is the East Cambridge levee, which holds back the water of Leatherwood Creek, and the other is the Southgate levee, which holds back the waters of Wills Creek. That levee is controlled by two mechanisms: a sluice gate that we close once Wills Creek at Campbell Avenue gets above 13 feet above the creek bed, and then at the railroad at 20 foot above the creek bed. That particular levee has permanent pumps associated with it. This one does get closed frequently, as you can imagine. Wills Creek is up above 13 feet quite frequently. Once that happens, those pumps are engaged to make sure the rainwater that falls on the Southgate corridor is pumped on the other side of the levee. This here is the levee, the East Cambridge levee. So I think a lot of people are real familiar with the west side, but it's actually bordered also on the south side by the railroad, and then the topography to the north and east keeps the rainwater, keeps Leatherwood Creek out of East Cambridge. I just thought this was interesting. This is the tributary area for Wills Creek as it leaves the city of Cambridge. So it's quite large, 406 square miles, which is approximately 260,000 acres. But over here, I didn't know this, but on the south, well, it would be our southeast side of this tributary area, but the northwest area of Monroe County drains to it. A good portion of Noble County. Over here, you got Muskingum County. Over here, you got Belmont County, and then of course a good portion of Guernsey County. So all this water is flowing through our city. Of course, it's a little misleading to say the 260,000 acres because we do have Seneca Lake, which is for flood control. Here is the FEMA map for East Cambridge, and I thought this was important to point this out. You can see right here in the middle, and I bullet pointed it on the left here. It's an area with reduced flood risk to the area, which is Zone X. So I thought that was important to point out. You can't ever get rid of all flood water, but you can reduce it. And that's exactly what the levee did, and that's how they spell it out in FEMA. Area with reduced flood risk due to the levee. So the East Cambridge levee has two ways to operate it. It has a flap gate that's just permanently closed. If water on East Cambridge gets high enough, it opens up and lets water out, and then we have a sluice gate. So the sluice gate is the picture on the right, and in the middle there is the flap gate. I am not an artist, but I wanted to kind of illustrate how the levee works. As the flooding was happening, I realized a lot of people don't understand levees, and I put together this sketch that I think spells it out pretty well. So over here you can see Leatherwood Creek, and this would be East Cambridge on the right. As Leatherwood Creek water comes up, this flap gate is automatically closed. So this doesn't let water get over to East Cambridge. Now in the other situation, if the rain is in East Cambridge and Leatherwood Creek is down, then that flap gate opens and lets the water go out. During this flood, we had water on both sides. So the only way to get the water out of East Cambridge is to pump it. So that's why, I don't know how many people saw pumps out there, but we had several pumps to try to remove this water. And that's why we did this. Oh. So this is the event. Chris Jamio at the wastewater treatment plant, he tracks the rain very closely, what precipitation we get every single day. So I tracked it here from March 22nd all the way till April 4th was really when it hit. and East Cambridge went under, and quite frankly, the rest of the city as well. But if you can see at the top right, we got 7.7 inches in that span. Why I went back that far is it just paints the picture that the ground was already saturated. So once we got those rains, you see like March 31st of 2 inches and April 1st of an inch and then 2 more inches on the 2nd. This is water that was just running off. It wasn't really penetrating the ground. This was serious flood. This is what you can see here if you're going out towards Kipling from Cambridge. After you go past Kipling, there's a bridge on the right there. That actually measures the flow through Leatherwood Creek. And you can see there, the peak happened right around April 3rd. And I did a quick calculation. I guess I put it up there as well, but approximately 2 billion gallons of water went past that bridge in one day. So we had some serious water coming our way. If you look at Wills Creek, it's pretty much saying the same thing. You can see up there, it's about 6,300 cubic feet per second. I did the same math there. That's approximately 4 billion gallons past that bridge in one day. And that flow meter there is located on the Campbell Avenue Bridge, right near Dunning Ford. So what's that look like as far as historic crest? Well, it's in the top 10. Matter of fact, it's number 7 on the list, right there in the middle. April 4th, 21.25 feet is where that crested. So we had the levee on Southgate Parkway. Obviously, both those gates closed, and we're doing the best we could given the situation. The repercussions of the storm event, well, stormwater entered East Cambridge. Actually, it entered everywhere. The known sources I've listed up there. We just got so much rain that our sanitary sewer was overflowed, so it was flowing into East Cambridge and elsewhere. There was an electric conduit that was letting a large portion of rain, and then of course rain water as well. I calculated this based off of the tributary area, which I think was highlighted earlier. I don't know if I mentioned it, but the tributary area associated with East Cambridge levee is about 75 acres. If you take that 7.7 inches over that, there's about 15.6 million gallons that landed in East Cambridge. We just had a lot of water. There's also potential sources, some of which we're still investigating, and others we'll just keep an eye on. But infiltration through the levee, we suspect there's some of that. We have inspected the levee and couldn't find any obvious areas, but we're going to keep an eye on that and see what we can do about inspecting it. There's potentially a sanitary sewer overflow from the lift station. I don't know how many people are familiar with the lift station over there, but it actually goes under the levee with a force main, and there was a gravity there once upon a time. We've since discovered that there's a valve closing it, so we're going to go out there and make sure that valve is closed, if not just abandoning that gravity. And also, we did have the potential that the flap gate may have been partially open. There's no way to confirm that, but once the water did reside, it was slightly open. We don't know if that happened when water from East Cambridge was going through the flap gate, or if it was partially jammed open before the water came up. But in any case, our plan is to obviously keep a good eye on that. What I've done here is based off of the topographic survey we have. Again, I'm not an artist, but I tried to highlight kind of where the flooding took place in East Cambridge. And the photos pretty much justify that's pretty accurate. Approximately 36.5 acres of the 75 over there were inundated with water. Here's some photos of the rain event on East Cambridge. You can see some mobile homes were inundated with water. The picture on the top right, that's Rogovins over there. It actually didn't get to their buildings, but several of the roads to get to them was flooded. The bottom right is actually our lift station, so it was inundated with water as well. There's a house there. Here's the bottom left. I thought that was an interesting picture. That's actually the levee, and you can see it looks like the water on Leatherwood Creek side is a little bit higher than the levied side, or East Cambridge. So we do believe it was at least holding back some water, if not operating as designed. The mayor asked me to also, just show some pictures of other areas, because it wasn't just East Cambridge that was affected. The top left there, that's actually behind Rural King. The water almost got up to Rural King. That's one of our lift stations. As you can see, it's completely flooded. The top right, that's our lift station at Vanadium. it was completely underwater as well. I mean, you can't even see the road there, but there's actually a road that goes back to that lift station. The bottom left, that's our raw pumping on Wills Creek for our reservoir. It didn't make it to it, thank God, but you can see it was pretty close. The bottom right, that's actually our Dunning lift station. Can't really see it because it's underwater, but in the background is Dunning. I don't know how many people are aware of that. They had to move their cars out because it ended up getting flooded. That's a picture of it. You can see it's pretty well underwater. The top left there, that is not a stream. That is North 5th Street, right at Gordon's Run. So it was underwater. On the right, that's another lift station there. That's the big, what we call the Big Lots lift station. But you can see you can't even get into the Save-A-Lot down there. That lift station's underwater. Bottom left is the South Park. It's completely underwater. And the bottom right, that's actually our wastewater treatment plant. So it didn't get to a level that it really affected our wastewater treatment plant, but you can see it was getting close. So what was the action we did during this flood? We got the roads closed and tried to get detours set up really quickly. We had a lot of residents that felt like those signs weren't applicable to them, as we had emergency personnel out there trying to get pumps. They were driving through. So I did get the police and fire involved. Director Baker sent out a cop, so they were helping us make sure that we were safe as we were setting up pumps. Myself and the utility director met with ODNR, trying to hatch a plan. I think we had a pretty good plan before we got here, but it was nice to know that we had some assistance. We also got with the director of the Guernsey County Emergency Management Agency. He assisted with us as well. He also contacted Red Cross, and I believe 4 families were actually displaced and put into hotels. I have 5 up there. There was supposed to be a 5th, but we actually had to get the police out there to do a wellness check, and we later found out that individual was actually in a nursing home, so we didn't end up having to displace him. So this is kind of the sequence of events. On April 4th, we had the first pump. That was a city pump out there. We had it pumping about 6 p.m. The second one was operating about 9 p.m. We rented that from ICR. The very next day, we had Select Water Solutions out there with a much larger pump. They had an 8x10 pump, and then the next day they got two additional 6-inch pumps out there. At our max, we could pump right around 7 million gallons a day with the pumping that we had out there. Following the flood, we've inspected the levee already. I already mentioned that, but we have not really found any signs that water was infiltrating it. Again, we suspect there's probably some somewhere, and we'll try to get that tested, but we couldn't find any. Via our visual inspection, didn't really find anything. The flap gate and sluice gates were inspected. As I already mentioned, the flap gate did have, it actually had like a log and a bowling ball in it once the water went down. Don't know if that was there before the flood. Cleared debris on both sides. We followed up with the EMA and ODNR. ODNR actually mentioned that they could do an operation and maintenance and inspection plan for us, and also an emergency action plan free of charge. So I've been working closely with them on getting that completed. Also, I met with the Muskingum Watershed Conservatory District. They said there's potentially funding out there for some improvements. They requested a whole bunch of information, so I sent that over to them last week to see if we can get any assistance there. Moving forward, I already mentioned it, but creating an operation and maintenance inspection manual, creating an emergency action plan, and then investigate some of those items, levee infiltration, that sewer sanitary overflow. I don't know why I started at the bottom, but also clearing the area and just maintaining it, and inspecting the storm sewer under the levee. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I can answer them now.
Any questions of the engineer? Mr. McMillan?
Nick, are you, is the city working with the displaced families in any way, or do you know if they're working with FEMA? And the reason I'm asking, in '98 when we had the flood, I, incurred a lot of damage, and I worked very closely with FEMA. So I'm just wondering if those families have been contacted, if that resource is available for them.
The Red Cross is working with them and also the
Okay,
Guernsey County
good.
EMA. FEMA will not get involved. We looked into that early on. A lot more families need to be displaced.
Okay,
So I hate to hear that 4 families were displaced, but that's nowhere near close to
Right.
getting FEMA involved.
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
It was a great presentation, by the way, thank you.
I had 3 things to add to that. We tried hard to get the names of the people, and that was protected, so we are thankful there was a plan for them. 2 nights in a row, we went to bed where that water was slapping up underneath the bridge, and one night of 1 more inch, and we'd have went to the top 4 floods. And that's just, so, and then just take a moment and thank those that went before us, because government's tough. But that High Bridge traded land years ago with another administration and created that dike down there. And when you talk to East Cambridge people that lived there all their lives, they're grateful. Because without that, you think it was ugly this time. And that's why I had him do this tonight, because as we go forward, when you look at the world weather patterns, we have to use everything we have to do the best we can. Who knows? Not trying to terrify anybody, but I mean, if you get one of them 3 to 6 inch toad stranglers on top of everything we just had, you'll see water in places we haven't ever seen it before. And we've seen it. And back when we were in high school, that one down there, before they built the dike behind with the solitary pumps. Now, one thing we learned, if it goes up crazy like that again, we'll get pumps out there a tad bit earlier. But truthfully, at the rate the way the water was coming, you just still got water. You're just trading one side to the other, but thanks.
Before, Nick, before you leave, are there any more questions? Ms.
I just was wondering if there's a dollar amount attached to everything that had to be done, because all that equipment, all the people, I mean, I think residents need to understand, appreciate what you were able to do.
Well, we tapped our income from our water. People sometimes fuss about paying the water bill, or this is what income in, income out. I mean, we hit it with everything we had, like getting them pumps and different things. And there was businesses out there that helped. But we feel for other places in the county too, like Quaker City got hammered. Marietta, they may still be down there in boats. I mean, they had it bad. I mean, you have to ask a question sometimes, why does it seem come in different pots like that? But it is what it is, you just go with it. I will say this engineer, our working crew from Lou Thornton, the man, the foreman, Tom Lanning and different, police, the fire, everybody was involved.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you both. All right, we'll move on to communications.
I have the park board minutes from their March meeting.
Mr. Pancho,
Motion to accept and place on file.
Mr. Mauer,
Second the motion.
all in favor of that motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And that motion is granted. Next, please.
I have the monthly reports from the municipal court, the auditor, and the treasurer.
Mr. Laughlin,
Motion to accept and place on file.
Ms. Hill,
Second the motion.
all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That motion is granted. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. Reports of committees.
Report of Finance Committee, April the 1st. We recommend that council authorize the administration to enter into contract with Pyrotechnica Fireworks for fireworks display for 2024.
Any questions to the committee on that report? Next, please.
Report of Finance Committee, April the 1st. We recommend that the following transfers and appropriations be approved. Appropriate $700,000 from the unappropriated water fund to water capital improvements.
Any questions to the committee on that report? Next, please.
Report of Finance Committee, April the 15th. We recommend that the following transfers and appropriations be approved. Appropriate $205 to general fund miscellaneous burials. Appropriate $15,799.14 to EMS supplies. Appropriate $1,295.87 to water office vehicle maintenance.
Any questions to the committee on that report? Okay, Next, please.
Report of Finance Committee, April the 15th. We recommend that council authorizes the Department of Economic and Community Development to enter into a partnership with Guernsey County Commissioners for administering the CHIP grant.
Any questions of the committee on that report? Next, please.
Report of Finance Committee, April the 15th. We recommend that council authorizes the Department of Economic and Community Development to apply for 2024 CHIP grant.
Any questions of the committee on that report? Next, please.
Report of Finance Committee, April the 15th. We recommend that council authorizes the administration to enter into an agreement with ODOT for sodium chloride for the 2024-2025 winter season.
Any questions of the committee on that report? Next, please.
Report of Finance Committee, April the 15th. We recommend that council authorizes the Department of Economic and Community Development to advertise for requests for proposals for 2024 CHIP and CDBG program grants.
Any questions of the committee on that report? Next, please.
Report of Finance Committee, April the 15th. We recommend that council authorizes the Department of Economic and Community Development to enter into contract with the best qualified to assist with the 2024 CHIP and CDBG program grants.
Any questions of the committee on that report? Okay, move on to unfinished business. Anybody have anything under unfinished business? If not, we'll go to the audience portion, and at this time, we'd ask Judge Stephanie Williams to approach the microphone for the presentation of the Municipal Court's annual report.
Thank you all for having me tonight. I apologize that we weren't here earlier. We had submitted the report at the end of March. However, we wanted to be able to present some numbers from the first quarter of this year. As you all know, none of these numbers are mine. I just took office in January, so I'm reporting on other people's work. So we wanted an opportunity to be able to present to you what we've been doing in the first quarter of my administration. So we waited a little while and now have that information. I'll have Katie Howell with me here. She's my technology person. I wasn't quite sure how to run a PowerPoint presentation, so she is here. She was roped into that. It's one of her many duties as court administrator, and that's probably my single biggest accomplishment so far as judge, has been luring Katie back to the court. She worked there for, what, 15 years, Katie? And she had left to pursue some other interests, and so once I was elected, she very graciously agreed to return, and she's been absolutely invaluable. As I said, I needed her to run this because I don't know how to run it. You're not going to hear any like really impressive math in this one either, like you did from the engineer. I don't math that way. Well, that's one of the benefits of being a lawyer is you generally don't have to use a lot of math. So it won't be as many numbers as what she was able to. So this is, the first slide is just some information about the administrative transition that we've had over the course of the last 3 months. One of the first things that we've been doing or working on is identifying and creating policies and procedures according to the Ohio Rules of Superintendents. The Ohio Rules of Superintendents are the set of rules that govern all the courts and all the things that the courts are supposed to do in processing their cases and their dockets. In reviewing those rules, they found that there were some policies, plans, procedures that were in place but needed to be modified or amended, and there were some that just simply weren't in place. So we've been working on those things. One is the language access plan. There are a lot of people that come through our area who are not English speaking. There are some rules that require that if someone is not, English is not their first language or they can't understand English, then we have to provide an interpreter for them. Somewhat difficult sometimes because interpreters aren't generally readily available here locally, and they have to be approved by the Supreme Court to serve as an interpreter in cases. So we've implemented a plan to address that when that situation arises. We also have a document retention or a records retention policy, a case management plan, a jury management plan, a security plan, which was in place, but we've been working on revising that, as well as a technology plan. In regards to the security plan, we did request and it was in my letter to council in the report, we requested a security assessment through the Supreme Court. It's one of the many services that they offer that they'll send a retired homeless police officer who comes down and will assess and review all of the security measures in your court in order to determine if there are any issues or concerns with those. So we had that back on, I think it was March 26th. He said it usually takes 5 or 6 weeks to get his report to us, but we're patiently awaiting that to see if there's anything that's of concern to the Supreme Court that may need to be rectified. We also had a technology assessment conducted. Unfortunately, that indicated that there were some significant security and performance deficiencies that needed to be addressed, including firewall and network security. The issue with that is if there are problems, it will create an interruption in service to the public as well as the operation of the court. This could affect online access, online payments, e-filing, all those types of things. So we're working on trying to rectify that situation. Court did apply for a technology grant through the Supreme Court. That was filed back in February, and we should have some word on that here probably in May. Hopefully early in May, but probably not till the end of May. One of the kind of downsides of the first 3 months is that we discovered the state opioid response grant that had previously been granted to the court was terminated. That grant had been used to supplement probation department salaries, including 3 officer salaries, their PERS contributions, and health insurance. When we looked into that, it was discovered that in 2022, the court had been notified by the Mental Health and Recovery Services Board that the purpose of the grant was not to pay for officer salaries, and then it would be terminated in September of 2023. Prior administration did obtain some bridge funding to secure funding through the end of 2023, but that has since ended as well. We could potentially apply for that same source of bridge funding. However, we would be required to create a specialized docket in order to qualify for that. Specialized docket would be something like a drug court or a mental health court, veterans court, something along those lines. It is something that we've been looking into. However, with all the changes and transition, felt that that was something better to maybe table for a little while. We have, however, been analyzing any unnecessary expenses within the budget to identify opportunities for any cost reduction. One such reduction was we reviewed the probation on-call and decided in April to terminate that. We also are looking at court-issued cell phones. It costs about $10,000 a year. Many employees didn't use them. Our contract, however, runs until October, so until October, we're left with them. But at the end of October, we'll probably be terminating those, again, at a cost or savings of about $10,000 a year in the budget. We've also done just little things like Microsoft 360, our business accounts. There were several accounts and users that were no longer with the court, but we were still paying for their access or their user accounts. So terminated those things and just kind of eliminated any unnecessary expenses. I guess I'm of the generation where books have become much less important to lawyers. I know those before me are always relying on books. We've cut some publications, again, in order to try to save costs, and all the same information is available online. I honestly can't tell you the last time I picked up most of the books that were being received by the court, and so it's simply just not necessary to spend the money on those when the same things can be available online. We also implemented a program called Contributions in Lieu of Community Service. This is authorized by Revised Code Section 2929.27B. It allows an offender who has been sentenced to community service to request the court to modify the sentence to authorize the offender to make a reasonable contribution in lieu of community service. We implemented this program at the end of January of this year. Through the end of March, we had generated approximately $4,000 in contributions. Now, the benefit of this program is the court can impose a fine or can impose community service. Sometimes they can impose a combination of the two. Fines generally are paid to the state. None of that money, or most of that money, doesn't stay here locally. Contributions in lieu of community service does. So if we, in lieu of a fine, impose community service on an individual, it benefits the community potentially in one of two different ways. One, if they're not able to pay their fine, then we don't have all these unpaid fines laying around that we have to send to collections and wait for in perpetuity to collect. So those persons can instead perform community service in order to satisfy the expenses that they owe to the court. In the alternative, there are a lot of people that come in that have the ability, who are working, and will pay in lieu of having to perform community service. And again, those funds remained with the community. So we've been collecting those since the end of January, and like I said, about $4,000 in the first couple months that's been in effect. Is something that we're hoping to expand, both on the side of having more community service conducted within the community and also generating those funds for the community. Can you go to the next slide, please? Overall, the revenue from, or the revenue to the city of Cambridge for 2023 was $2,183,687. That indicated or reflected a decrease of about 4% from 2022. There was an 18% decrease in the collection of criminal miscellaneous fees, which include capital recovery fees, grant money, and probation services fee. Next slide. The overall expenses from special funds, some expenses from these funds include alarm and security updates. There also was maintenance required to the community service van. In addition, these funds changed a little bit because the probation salaries were increased. We transferred, or the court last year transferred Skip Weatherall, who was appointed as the court's community service coordinator, to the probation services fund rather than from the general fund. I'll tell you, Skip has been a wonderful asset to the court and to the community overall. He's an extremely hard worker. He's always the first one at the court, and he's willing to do whatever needs to be done. And he's just wonderful to work with. He's always very kind to the people that are working for him too. So I think they appreciate that. I appreciate that. And he's really just a joy to work with. Next slide. Overall, in 2023, the court continued to recognize a decrease in cases. As shown in the slide, Byesville Police Department filings decreased by 33%, Cambridge Police Department by 30%, Division of Wildlife by 1%, Guernsey County Sheriff by 3%, and the Ohio State Highway Patrol by less than 1%. So there are still, or at least as of last year, there were still some decreases in case filings. We'll talk about that here in a minute as far as the first quarter of this year. Next slide. In the probation comparison, new pretrial cases are down 8%. Obviously, that goes right along with the decrease in filings. With decreased filings, there's less people to put on probation. New probation cases, however, increased about 15.5%, and that may just be due to the types of cases that are coming in that require supervision as opposed to not. Total supervised probation cases increased about 1.5%. Supervised probation includes drug testing individuals, intakes, which include conducting risk assessments. They conduct home visits, have frequent appointments with the visitors, and then monitor offenders if they're on some type of monitor. Other probation officers' duties include covering the courtroom as a bailiff, covering security as needed, transporting offenders to and from the jail, and attending court hearings, providing testimony for sentence reviews, bond hearings, bond reviews, and violations hearings. I will note that the court bailiff was James Carpenter. You probably all know him as Bugsy. He resigned as of the end of, I think, a week ago. So he's no longer with the court. We have transferred Dominique Bannister, who was a pretrial bond officer with the probation department, over to the position of bailiff. We are now at 4 probation officers. At this time, it's our intention to remain at 4, given the decrease in filings. After having talked with the probation staff, they're all of the opinion and agreement that they can manage the caseload with just 4. However, if the caseload increases, then that may be something that we need to address in order to have somebody else come in. And I will tell you, the last couple of weeks, it seems as though there has been an increase, particularly in the pretrial bond. And those are the people that when they come in for their initial arraignment are placed on either some kind of monitoring or just having to report to the court. I believe we had, 6 put on today? So today was a very long day of arraignments, and there were many people that are now reporting to the bond officer. So with having moved Dominique over to the bailiff position, we only have 1 bond officer now. So she's been kind of loaded up here in the last couple weeks, and it's Dee McInerney, who was with the patrol for many years, and she's great too, and I'm sure she can manage for the time being. So you can go to the next slide. All right, community service, you can see the hours. The community service hours that the court has had workers on has increased dramatically over the years. I'm looking at the report that was submitted in 2022. There was a total of 5,117 hours of community service performed. In 2023, that number jumped up to $7,046, 7,046 and a half hours. So there's a significant increase in the number of hours that are both being ordered to be worked that individuals are working. Some of that from last year could be attributable to people working community service in order to pay fines and costs, which has been approved and permitted. Next slide. So now we'll get into the information from 2024. The first quarter filings for 2024 in January showed a significant decrease. January 2023, the court saw 476 cases. In January 2024, that number was down to 325, which is a decrease of 151. That was broken down by 186 traffic, 58 criminal, and 81 civil. However, in the 2 months since then, the number of cases have increased over last year's numbers. In February, in 2023, the court had 384 cases. This year, we're at 428, which was an increase of 44. In March was 388, which 388 in 2023. March of 2024 was 460, which was an increase of 72 cases. So there has been some rebound in the number of cases being filed. Civil cases in particular seem to be up quite substantially. I anticipate some city filings coming here soon. I know I spoke with Bill the other day. He'd been down an assistant for a while. He now has filled that position, so I think he's looking to start filing those city filings on the code enforcement. So we look forward to that, and we will handle those promptly. Next slide. The first quarter revenue for the city is shown in the next slide. It does show a decrease in each month from the same months in 2023. However, I would point out that in 2023, each month the court was receiving that opioid response grant. So that number, that influx is shown in those, or is included in those numbers. So when I had the finance manager pull the numbers of those contributions in January 2024, we were actually up a couple $1,000s. In February 2023, we were down. And then in March, we were up again from last year. I would also note on that slide that in February, it looks as though obviously the revenues are much higher there. That's the month the court's been receiving a grant from the county for EMHA services to help reduce the jail population. So twice a year they make a payment to the court, which is revenue given to the city or reimbursed to the city. And so that's the month, one of the months that's paid. So that's why February has been higher both of the last 2 years. So that's all I have. I think things have been going very well at the court. I've been enjoying my time there. As I said in my letter in the report, one of the things I inherited was a fantastic staff. Everybody there is very knowledgeable. A lot of them have many, many, many years of experience and know the answers to any questions I might have of them. So I appreciate the fact that Judge Nicholson cultivated such a good group of people working there, and that all of them, for the most part, chose to stay. Be happy to answer any questions anyone would have.
Any questions of Judge Williams?
I don't have a question, but I do want to commend you on your community service program.
Well, thank you.
I have the opportunity twice a month at the food pantry that I oversee. Skip brings them down, and they're fantastic.
Yeah,
We've actually had the instance where some of them have returned after their time is done to volunteer.
Really? I actually have sitting on my desk right now requests from 2 individuals who'd been working community service who are now asking to work more in order to pay off fines and costs because they had a good experience with it, and they know they're able to, rather than having to struggle to pay those, or again being paying those into perpetuity, they're able to work the hours. Skip's wonderful to the people that come in to work those hours. They've done a lot of wonderful things, and you probably all saw the photographs of the cleanup under the viaduct. I mean, they really worked hard to get that cleaned up. Skip was telling me last week that they were going to work on the cemetery behind over here on 11th Street. Did they do it this morning? Okay. So yeah, he was talking about that. There was another project that was coming up. So Skip's a really hard worker, and he's been instilling that into the people that have been coming to work for him.
And you're right, one of his biggest things that he brings to the table is how he treats them.
Oh yes.
I've witnessed that a couple times, and it's refreshing to see.
Right. I mean, these folks are there as in part as a form of punishment, but they're still people, and they deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, and he certainly does that.
Anybody else?
I'm sorry. I did have one question,
Okay.
Judge. and I appreciate the presentation. That was great. I appreciate the update. Appreciate you guys being here. With the magistrate situation, could you allow, I know that we had a magistrate here for the last several years, and they were
Yes.
here, consistently, and I know we have to have a magistrate because you can't be there all the time, but just how is that, could you explain that a little bit, how that?
We don't have a magistrate, and at this point,
do
I
not?
don't intend to have a magistrate.
Okay,
I'm a one-woman show right now. So with the way the cases are right now, it has not been necessary to have a magistrate. I'm able to hear all of the cases. I haven't had any significant delay in hearing cases. The Supreme Court has requirements of timeframes in which cases are supposed to be heard. Most criminal cases are 6 months. So from the time the case comes into the court to the time it's adjudicated, all I have is 6 months. Some is less than that, depending on what kind of case it is. We have felony cases that come in for preliminary hearings. Those are required to be completed within 30 days. They're usually much shorter than that because of preliminary hearing timing and so forth. But those are all things I have to keep in mind when scheduling, is in order to move the cases out so they're not sitting longer than they need to be, so that cases are, adjudicated promptly and people can go on with their lives. We've not encountered any issue with scheduling at this point. The only place where there may become an issue is we're seeing at this point an increase, at least in requests for jury trials. We've not yet had one actually go, but because it's just me, and historically before Magistrate Liston was there was generally, at least during my career here in Guernsey County, was a part-time magistrate who heard civil cases. And so Thursday has always been civil day at the court. That magistrate would work Thursdays and take that whole docket. At the same time, jury trials would be held on Thursdays, and so the judge could then handle any of the jury trials that would go. I don't have that luxury now because I don't have a magistrate. So what we've done is alternate days. So one Thursday will be civil day, the next Thursday will be jury trial day. It's been working so far, and I did that because I didn't want to have a situation where we scheduled a bunch of civil cases and then a jury trial is going to go and we have to reschedule the whole day. I didn't think it was fair to the litigants in those cases. Those are small claims, evictions, all those types of things that those individuals, and they need their day in court as well. So we've gone to the alternating schedule, and so far it's been working. Thursdays are generally very full right now with civil, and civil cases have been increasing. So if there is going to be a need for a magistrate, that's where it's going to come. And I would anticipate it but being a part-time position primarily for the situation of, or for the purpose of hearing civil cases. I also, so I can't be there all the time, like you said. I have new judge training coming up here in mid-March. We have Derek Moorhead, who's an attorney in Muskingum County, who has agreed to act as acting judge for me and has on a couple of occasions. He also serves as acting judge in the Zanesville Municipal Court, so that's how I was able to come across him to serve that in that capacity. So he's been there a couple of days when I've had to take vacation days for a couple different things. Then he'll be there when I'm in required training still. So,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Anybody else? Mr. Mayor? Microphone.
Yeah, I just wanted, when she came into the office, we talked a little bit about a few things, and you hit it right on, Tim, and you guys holding the line and just taking her time and listening and watching and making some moves. It's been refreshing, and we needed that. We just need a little bit of a timeout, catch your breath, and I'm not going to get into the personalities of all of it, but when you have two leaders at the high level, in which that's money, and she's handling all that and watching what goes on, and then as you need a few things, we're your partners. We have to be, but at the same time, it's a lot of things going on. Like the building thing, you didn't mention all of that. We've been involved. It's our building on paper, and they've had some issues up there that we've had to dig into, and it's been pretty interesting at best.
City's been very helpful. They did step in to replace all the lighting in the building, which apparently has been done for quite some time. I didn't notice it, but I just.
We got into the LED, yeah.
Yeah, so that was done, and then I also had approached Mayor Orr about the parking lot. There are some pretty significant holes in the parking lot, particularly in the police parking portion of it.
That's where the complaints are coming in. They got the.
So they've been great.
just a little history, the van, when that started, community service, and maybe get one half a day a week. And, the van, if it gets real good and tired, we'll have to be partners with that again.
Well, it's running 5 days a week.
Yeah, I know, it's running hard.
Yeah. Thank you, Tom.
Okay, well, thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else in the audience portion? Okay. Are you here for school? Okay. Sorry about the light. You picked the wrong night to come.
This is a great
Uh,
This is a
night.
good meeting to go.
Under new,
Great night.
under new business, anything under new business? If not, we'll go to ordinances and resolutions.
An ordinance authorizing the administration to enter into contract with Pyrotechnico Fireworks Incorporated for fireworks display.
Mr. Laughlin,
Motion to suspend.
Mr. McMillan,
Second to suspend.
roll call and suspension, please.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Mauer?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Evancho?
Yes.
Loffman?
Yes.
Mr. Evancho,
Motion to pass.
Mr. Wolverton,
Second pass.
any discussion? Roll call, please.
Loffman?
Yes.
Evancho?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Mauer?
Yes.
And that ordinance is declared adopted. Next, please.
An ordinance of transfers and appropriations.
Mr. Evancho,
Motion to suspend.
Mr. Mauer,
Second motion.
roll call and suspension, please.
Evancho?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Mauer?
Yes.
Loffman?
Yes.
Ms. Hill,
Motion to pass.
Mr. Loughlin,
Second to pass.
any discussion? Roll call, please.
Loffman?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Mauer?
Yes.
Evancho?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
And that ordinance is declared adopted. Next, please.
An ordinance authorizing the Department of Economic and Community Development to enter into partnership agreement with Guernsey County Commissioners.
Mr. Wolverton,
Motion to suspend.
Mr. Mauer,
Second motion.
roll call and suspension, please.
Hill?
Yes.
Evancho?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Loffman?
Yes.
Mauer?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Mr. Loughlin,
Motion to pass.
Ms. Hill,
Second to pass.
discussion? Roll call, please.
Mauer?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Evancho?
Yes.
Loffman?
Yes.
And that ordinance is declared adopted. Next, please.
An ordinance authorizing the administration to submit an application for a 2024 Community Housing Impact and Preservation Grant.
Mr. McMillan,
Motion to suspend.
Mr. Evancho,
I'll second the motion.
roll call and suspension, please.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Mauer?
Yes.
Loffman?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Evancho?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Wolverton,
Motion to pass.
Mr. Mauer,
Second motion.
any discussion? Roll call, please.
Loffman?
Yes.
Evancho?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Mauer?
Yes.
And that ordinance is declared adopted. Next, please.
An ordinance authorizing the administration to enter into an agreement with ODOT for sodium chloride for the 2024-2025 winter season.
Ms. Hill,
Motion to suspend.
Mr. Loughlin,
Second to suspend.
roll call on the suspension, please.
McMillan?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Mauer?
Yes.
Loffman?
Yes.
Evancho?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Mr. Evancho,
Motion to pass.
Mr. McMillan,
Second to pass.
any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mauer?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Evancho?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Loffman?
Yes.
That ordinance is declared adopted. Next, please.
An ordinance authorizing the Department of Economic and Community Development to advertise for requests for proposals for 2024 CHIP and CDBG program grants.
Mr. Mauer,
Motion to suspend.
Mr. Wolverton,
Second to suspend.
roll call on the suspension, please.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Mauer?
Yes.
Loffman?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Evancho?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Mr. McMillan,
Motion to pass.
Mr. Loughlin,
Second to pass.
any discussion? Roll call, please.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Mauer?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Evancho?
Yes.
Loffman?
Yes.
That ordinance is declared adopted. Next, please.
An ordinance authorizing the Department of Economic and Community Development to enter into contract with Best Qualified to assist with the 2024 CHIP and CDBG program grants.
Ms. Hill,
Motion to suspend.
Mr. Loughlin,
Second to suspend.
roll call on the suspension, please.
Loffman?
Yes.
Evancho?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Mauer?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Mr. Evancho,
Motion to pass.
Mr. Mauer,
Second the motion to pass.
any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mauer?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Evancho?
Yes.
Loffman?
Yes.
And that ordinance is declared adopted. Move to miscellaneous, Mr. Vancho.
Yes, Finance Committee will meet next Monday, April. It's the fifth Monday.
Give vacation.
You're right,
It's snow day.
you're right.
Mayor Salubo used to say it's a
That's
snow day.
correct. Thank
May
you.
6th.
May 6th. We'll go to the following Monday, so it will be 2 weeks. And that will be at 4:30.
Okay, anything else under miscellaneous? Mr. Millen?
Well, Chief Deeks, thank you for recognizing your employees, but you need to be recognized as well. Yeah, you know, you didn't ask us for money. But behind every good department is a good leader, and you need to be commended as well. Kudos to you guys, but kudos to you as well. Thank you for all you do.
Anybody else? If not, Mr. Wolverton,
Motion to adjourn.
we are adjourned.
Already? Push the button.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you better get after it.